Welcome to this edition of the Awakening Women podcast. In this edition, I want to talk to you about emotional self-leadership and what that actually is, what it means. This has been a really large part of my own inner work that I would say I've been doing for over 13 years. I can think of a time where I really started to do this work. I remember the time, I remember the practitioners I was working with, the work I was doing. It was energy work, a lot of breath work, counseling, different alternative types of counseling, not always traditional, some traditional. So this isn't new to me, and actually it has been a large cornerstone to the work I've been doing for 13 years as a therapist to start off with. And it was a large part of my practice is doing emotionally focused therapy and solution focused therapy. So I combined the two and it was very effective. Plus I also brought in my holistic framework, my intuitive gifts around getting insights into what I was seeing. I feel like I have really good skills around reading patterns and being able to see a client's patterns to point them out to them so that they can see themselves more clearly. And that has been a lot of my own work and the work that I've been doing. And so when we're looking at emotional self-leadership, we're looking at it as that we're able to bring mind and heart alignment, that we have emotional resilience. We are able to ride the waves of life and things that come up without being really reactive. Now, I will say, I would say I was someone that used to be quite emotionally reactive, and there's lots of reasons for that I see now, and I'm at a point in my life where I'm not, unless something, if I think about the last time something was really caused a deep reaction in me was when my daughters both of them were in a car accident back in April. I had a full-on, absolute panic, dread, like the dreaded, I can't even explain it, right? So in that moment, no, I was not emotionally resourced. It was the middle of the night and getting that call and then having to go drive an hour and a half to get to them. I was in a very triggered, very anxious state. And so there are going to be times in life where that's the case. What I'm talking about here is more about the daily things that happen. People are doing their things. Someone's saying something. Someone's doing something. And you're feeling emotionally reactive, or maybe you are going into the rumination, playing out scenarios or playing conversations in your head, or interactions, or something that happened, something that was said, whether it's with a partner or someone at work, in your business. It could be anyone, a friend, family. So it's paying attention to when you feel like you are suddenly not fully in your body and you're feeling like something else is taken over. That's typically when we know we're triggered, and it can come from trauma response. A lot of times, the bigger, more intense the reaction, the further back it goes. And so we want to learn how to get back to the basics, because when I've worked with women that in my practice that are, in their 40s and beyond, they are so new to this work. And a lot of it is like foreign to them because they'd never really had someone ask the questions, the deeper questions about feelings, or give them the guidance around how do you do this? How do you actually start to become emotionally mastered and be able to have the emotional resilience and have that emotional self-leadership and fluency and skillful navigation and being able to move things through rather than allowing them to get wedged in the body somewhere, which is what happens. And so this is where we talk about somatics, which is where the mind and body intersect. And we need to, first of all, acknowledge that is what happens if we're not able to move things through on a deep level. And so when I'm doing this work with women, a lot of times I have heard over the years is I'm afraid if I open up that box, I will never stop crying or I will never be able to come out of it. But actually what they're doing is they're keeping such a tight lid on all of it that they're not actually living a happy, full life. They're living in survival. They are living clenched and uptight and bracing, unhappy, bitter, angry, resentful. And it causes things like emotional eating, weight gain, rapid aging, lack of motivation to go after visions and aspirations and dreams. It's lack of creativity and being able to access inspiration. This is how that shows up in the body. And I've seen it time and time again. So we have to get emotional energy flowing. We have to get it moving, because when we are noticing we're feeling stagnant, unmotivated, some clients will say, I just feel like I can't take action. I kind of go into freeze mode. So this is when we have to start creating some emotional movement and creating some movement in either mindset, in something we're thinking, we're believing, into the emotional energy aspect, and then through the body, and then circling back. And so when you are noticing that you're feeling like a heaviness, or you're feeling, for lack of a better word, I don't like the word, but stuck or blocked. Something feels stuck, and women will say something just feels stuck and I don't know what it is. We have to get one of those dimensions moving, either the mind, the body, the spirit, the emotional energy. And I like to use all of those. So when I am helping a client with emotional clearing, and this is something I teach in my self-sourced method, how to actually clear an emotion, either in the moment, or because sometimes you can't in the moment. If you're with a client, you're in a meeting, you have family around, or you're at work, you know, there's going to be settings where you might not be able to completely clear it, but there are things you can do in the moment to not ignore it and let it get wedged somewhere in the body. Or you might notice that one thing trips you up and you have a really explosive reaction at a kid or someone else. That is likely, again, stems back, goes further back than what's happening in the now and the moment, but also it is oftentimes a culmination and a buildup when you have not dealt with the little things over the last, say, 30 days. And this is where women were given the bad rap of PMS, but actually what happens is that, and Dr. Christian Northrup teaches this, so this isn't just fluff. She taught, and I'm paraphrasing what she has said, but that during PMS, like 7 to 10 days before your period, if you have those emotional blow-ups, or you start to want to have a divorce or you want to like reinvent your entire life and go live in the mountains somewhere, it's a lot of times what it is it's a buildup of all the things throughout the month that you were just tolerating, pushing aside, going to work, doing doing all the things that you do. But then prior to our period, we had the veil thins and we're less able to tolerate and ignore. And so it all comes up, which is known as AKA the PMS syndrome, right? And then also that happens with us during perimenopause and the menopause transition. And so that's another phase of life where the veil thins and we have less tolerance for what we may have worked away, achieved away, distracted away, raised kids. That's a really great way to avoid everything else, because, they are all consuming. And if you're like me, your kids were, that was what your purpose was when they were little. And so that does take a lot of energy and focus and all that. But then as you get into midlife and beyond that, into the later stages, and your kids are older and maybe you do have more time and space to think about what you want, then your emotional resiliency can actually start to come back online. But what women actually do is just go on to the next thing. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Instead of using the space and time to actually go within. And fall and winter are the perfect seasons for doing that deep, introspective inner work. The summer is more, and spring and summer is more outward. We're doing the things, we're taking the action, we're more high energy. I know I feel this. I'm very in tune with the seasons, very much so. I start to notice the shift and start wanting to do more rituals and candles and the things that I like to do. And in the summer, it's a little bit less of that. I'm not doing as much of that and as much of the rituals and different things that I like to do as part of my spiritual, energetic practices. But one of them is living in tune with cycles. So living in tune with my cycles and cycles of the moon, cycles of nature. I digress. So another aspect to this is understanding your emotional landscape, understanding when something is coming up that it's asking to be witnessed. It doesn't mean you have to completely have your whole day ruined because something's coming up. In fact, you can shift it really quickly. And this is what self-sourced women do. This is what I teach my clients, is how do you move through it so it's not ruining your day, ruining your productivity, making it so that you are letting things pile up, you're not getting to them because you're completely emotionally flooded and overwhelmed. So we have to learn how to work with that energy to move through it. And there's multiple ways that we can do that. But the key is to understanding that when you're in a reactive state, you've lost your power. You're leaking your energy. And we cannot access higher levels of awareness, creativity, inspiration, spirituality, self-love, all of those things, desires, creating life vision, when we are locked down and our emotional, like all of our emotional aspects are just locked down. There's a tight lid on them. And this is very common for women who've experienced trauma, who have experienced narcissistic abuse in relationships, because it is traumatic to live in that. Let's be honest, it is. And so then the healing is about, okay, so now I get to come back into wholeness with self, and emotional self-leadership, emotional alchemy is part of it. It's one of the pillars. One of the many pillars that I teach inside of the Self-Sourced Woman. So if you would like more on this and actually learn how to do some of these tools, these practices, then there are a couple of places you can start with. The first is inside of the Self-Sourced membership. This is my monthly membership where you will get access to the pillars of the Self-Sourced Woman. It's a guide, you'll get inside. Then 4 times a week, I'm in the Telegram channel doing mini broadcasts. So I do downloads, things that come for me, and I want to share them. It could be something that comes up from one of the members in there, and I do something, I do a riff on that. It could be something I have become aware of in my own life, and I am sharing more in depth on the pillars of the Self-Sourced Woman, which is the method I have created and am creating. And so you get more of an insider scoop on that, more of the micro teachings on that, and then you get a Friday Q&A broadcast. So you come into it's all done in Telegram, no Zoom calls to get on. I love it. The women are loving it that are in there. And so you will post questions throughout the week, and Fridays I do a broadcast answering them all. And then you can listen to them when it works for you in audio format when you're on a walk. But the beauty of this is you also get to learn from the things that other women are asking. It helps you get clarification and hone in on maybe something you're experiencing, but you couldn't put words to. So it's really, really powerful. The second, if you are specifically struggling in a relationship that is emotionally chaotic and you're experiencing high conflict, ongoing conflict, then you can come into the self-sourced relationship inner circle. This is my space for you. We don't talk about men. We don't talk about narcissistic abuse. We don't talk about trauma and vent stories and focus on men in there. That is the switch that I have made with this, that I want to support women who are in these relationships, but we're doing it from a very different place. And so I have intimate cohorts. You get a Telegram group where you can ask questions as you go through my method. So this was originally my End the Cycle method. It is now called the Relationship Clarity method, but you get other things within that I have added since then. And so you get to go through all of that, and you can come and ask questions inside of the private Telegram channel. So you get access to me each week while you're going through that, and you will also get Q&A opportunities as well in there. So it's a way that I can offer the support, and you have a touch point with me each week where you can ask questions and get them answered. So if you'd like info on either of those, DM me on Instagram. I'm at Awakening Women Official. Just send me a message and say, hey, this resonated with me. I really want to start doing this work. And remember, you can do either of these, whether you're in a relationship or not. The self-sourced method that I am teaching you, just the very intro level in the membership, is for you no matter what your relationship state, because it's about learning to be self-sourced in body, business, love, and boundaries. So we're focusing on those 4 areas, and it's more of how you be that woman in all areas of your life. And then the self-sourced relationship, of course, goes much deeper into that, but it is very much talks about cycles, emotional addiction relationships, where we lose ourselves in relationships. When you're dealing with some very difficult and confusing and high conflict stuff in your relationship, then that's where you need to be, because I help you really get clear what is actually going on. Because very smart, successful, driven, accomplished women that I've worked with are in these relationships and they still think that they're the problem. And so as soon as you get into that whole curriculum and you start going through it, it answers all of the questions for you. It provides the clarity that you've been seeking and answers the questions that you've been wondering. So that's it for this episode, and I will chat with you in the next edition. Bye for now.